Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host, somebody who loves trick-or-treating, Jason Johnson.
Hey, Eric. Obviously, through the joys of podcasting here, I'm giving you a greeting gesture, right? Right. Just use your imagination. So,
We're number one. Yep, we are. Yep, that's right.
yeah.
More on that here shortly.
uh, or not.
Yeah,
We'll see.
but yeah, I know it's been a while, but if you remember this thing called Farscape, it was a TV show back in the early 2000s that we were covering a long time ago. Hey, we're back.
Had these uh, Muppet-like characters in space, right? Am I remembering that
Yeah,
correctly?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Got cult following, rave reviews at the time, underrated, but still fun sci-fi, which we love talking about. And yeah, took a little break with the sudden influx of Marvel and Star Wars things, but back to Farscape. So this time around, if you remember way back when, or not, we'll tell you anyway. We'll be doing season 4, episode 12, Kansas, which is actually a two-parter. So we kind of left at the cliffhanger last time we did this, and kind of just like, never mind. And now we're gonna pick up where we left off.
It's a part 2 of 3, right?
Yeah.
This is a trilogy. Yeah, which we'll get to when we hit the end, right? So I guess let's jump
Yeah, so
into it.
we're not gonna like leave you hanging for 3 months before we finish the thing here. So
Or are we? No.
unless something comes out that I don't know about, yeah, that we need to recover first. But
So I have been watching Brave New Worlds. If you want to talk, no, okay, never mind.
yeah, we'll jump back to the first couple of seasons of the latest Star Trek show.
We'll alternate. How about that? Just to really confuse everybody.
Yeah,
No,
which some could say Farscape was a strange new world at the time, but there you go.
and definitely Brave New World. Wait, that's DC.
Yeah,
Uh, anyway, all right. So as Eric said, Farscape season 4, episode 12, Kansas. We pick up with John still floating in space above Earth, all alone.
he's been floating for like 3 months now. It's terrible.
Yeah. How does that air holding out? Anyway, home, that really is Kansas, he says, before calling for Dargo and Pilot again. Back on Moya, the crew are on command, but have heard nothing. John states, I can't believe I'm going to die here. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, while looking at the Earth. Suddenly, crackling over the radio, we hear, John, where are you? It's Dargo on comms. John is surprised that they can hear each other, and Dargo mentions that the wormhole keeps opening and closing. John tells him to lock onto his voice signal, and when the wormhole opens again, to follow it through. Dargo decides to leave Scorpius and Sikozu behind, despite objections from Chiana, and asks Pilot to shut down Moya to ensure Scorpius can't do anything while the rest of them go rescue Crichton. The crew retrieves Crichton, who asks for a radio signal to find out what year it is. He hears that Reagan is still president, meaning it's the 1980s. He tells them that Einstein said if he came back before he left, it would screw things up. So they need to go down and check things out. Durga turns Lola's stealth mode on, and they fly down. Cut to John standing in front of his house. Home, I can't believe I'm home. He takes it in for a moment, just listening, and then tells Dargo to keep everyone off comms and the ship invisible while he checks it out. Einstein told him that there would be a problem. If there was a problem, it would start to close to him. He walks around and peeks through the plants growing at the fence and watches as his family are celebrating. He spots himself, at least a younger version, and can't quite believe it. He then realizes they're celebrating because his dad is going up on the Challenger. He explains to Dargo that in 1986, the Challenger space shuttle exploded, killing everyone on board, but his dad wasn't on that flight. Back on the ship, Rigel asks, in the scheme of things, what does it matter if your father dies? No dad, no Farscape project, John replies. You stay in peacekeeper custody. She, referencing Aaron, remains a Nazi. She, Chiana, ends up on Naberi Prime. Chiana asks how to fix it, and John relays that Einstein told him that changes ripple out from the first mutation. So if they fix that, everything will fall back into place. He decides that they can't all stay in the ship for a long time, and he knows a place where they can go, and luckily enough, tomorrow is Halloween. The crew are inside an abandoned house that John says was raided by the police in a drug bust. The dust is playing havoc with Dargo's eyes, and Chiana finds some old clothes in a box. John takes some jeans to change into and tells the others to stay out of sight. John steps outside to find his family arguing. Young John is arguing with his mother for backing down from his dad all the time, while his dad tells him not to talk to his mother like that and to shout at him. Young John gets in his 4x4 and speeds off. What the hell is wrong with him? He's so damned angry, says Dad, as he and the others walk back in the house, and he says he won't go Sunday. He'll go tomorrow. John spots a milk bottle in the driveway and can't resist drinking it. As he opens it and takes a few long overdue satisfying gulps, his then girlfriend Kim spots him and asks what he's doing. Do I know you? She asks. Startled, he turns around. Fred. Fred Scarron, John replies.
Great name, yeah.
Yeah. Could be, oh man, I'm blanking on the character from Dargo's character from the other Earth episode that I can't remember. Anyway.
Oh, now you can make me think about it. Yeah.
You can fix that in post.
Now I'm blanking on it too. Darn. Gary Regal. Yeah.
Gary Regal. Yep.
Totally, dude. Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Fred Scarron's right there with Gary Regal. She tells him he looks a little like John. He asks if John's gone to the lake, and she tells them that he's gone to the canal. He goes there whenever he's angry. John tells her he likes the spot with the overhang and the tall trees. That's my favorite place. Johnny hates it there, Kim says. John tells her he knows, but he shouldn't, and gives her the milk back and leaves. Dargo turns on the power in the house, and the TV turns on. It's Wheel of Fortune. What the frell is that? Aaron asks. I have no idea, Rigel replies. Duranci shows Chiana a picture of one of the previous occupants sticking his finger up at the camera. Must be some kind of greeting, she says. To a friend. Meanwhile, Aaron is mesmerized by the TV. They all continue watching the odd contraption, mesmerized and much amused. John goes to the canal where he finds his younger self sitting on the car bonnet. Who are you? He asks to John. He says, my name's John. John Clarence. You know, you should go to the overhang more often. Kim likes it there. John tells his younger self that he needs him to talk to his father and convince him not to go up in the shuttle. I don't know who you are, but shove off is the reply. John grabs his younger self and pushes him up against the truck, taking his keys. We don't hit. We may shoot people sometimes, but we don't hit. Pretty sure I've seen him hit. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did that last episode, but anyway.
He tells Teen John that he knows he has problems and he'll outgrow them. And he knows he's upset because he thinks his dad treats his mom badly. How do you know that? Young John asks. The same way I know you helped DK cheat on his SATs. He tells John that if he wants to go to college, he should convince his dad not to fly on the Challenger. Young John tells him that if he knew anything, he'd know he can't convince his dad to do anything. You're wrong, John says. You're wrong, his young self replies. He never listens. As Teen John drives off, John says, man, when you're right, you're right. Back at the house, Aaron is watching Sesame Street as Kermit and a young girl sing the alphabet. Aaron's going along with her and tells Dargo that he should learn this. Just a few of their words just in case. Dargo replies that Chiana already told him a few words. Yes, no, and bite me. He says that's all he needs to know.
Yeah, that's pretty much all he needs to fit right in.
It's how I get through life. Chiana's wearing a bright dress and tells Rigel she's busting to get out. It's Crichton's home. Rigel tells her that John got home, so if she doesn't mess this up, maybe he'll get to go home. Nevertheless, despite Dargo's attempts to order her, Chiana goes out saying it's Halloween and she'll fit in. As she walks outside, she meets a neighbor and gives her the middle finger in greeting. The woman enters the house and is met by Aaron, but sees Rigel and is freaked out, leaving in a panic. Back on Moya, Pilot tells Scorpius and Sikozu that Peacekeeper Marauders are approaching, and Greza and Braca are on board. Scorpius calls to Starburst, but Sikozu says they can't. They'd never find their way back to this exact location. Pilot wants to run, but Sikozu tells him that if they do, Greza will hunt them down, assuming John's on board. She suggests they let Greza board so she can see John's not here. Pilot's afraid she'll kill him, but Scorpius assures him that if John is not here, Greza won't hurt him.
Sure.
Yep, evidently.
Oh, yeah, really.
Young John arrives back home and spots Chiana wandering the streets. He comments on her outfit and asks if she's going to a party. Yeah. He asks if she wants a lift. Sure, she replies. She cranks up the music and he asks her name. She says Chiana, but he mishears, asking Karen? Yeah, she says Karen. She sniffs the car's lighter, burning her hand, and says Xiao, which John interprets as Shaw. Karen Shaw, right? The name of John Crichton. Crichton, she asks, surprised. and he asks what's the matter, and she ignores him and tells him to drive. Back at the house, a policeman has come to check it out. Erin's left to greet him, and she somewhat awkwardly speaks to him, saying that the house was abandoned by their uncle, and lets him in. He says he's received a complaint from a lady. Erin says she thinks it was scared. He saw Kermit, she says, picking up Rigel as she throws him on the floor, and says, "We thought the batteries were dead. It's just a silly toy." The policeman asks where they're from, and Dargo sneezes, revealing himself. The policeman gets worried, so Naranti reminds him it's Halloween, and says Dargo's dressed up. "That's a mask?" the officer asks. Erin says yes, and the policeman suggests he's a little old to be dressing up for Halloween. "No? Yes? Bite me," are Dargo's replies. So the policeman gets hostile. Dargo pulls out his blade, which Erin calls a toy. Naranti blows some herbs in his face and whispers that there's no danger here, telling him to see Dargo remove his mask and see the human he expects to see, and then leave them alone. Sure enough, Dargo pulls off his mask to reveal a human male, prompting the policeman to leave. "I think you broke a rib," Rigel says, as Erin decides she has to go find Crichton. Outside, Erin meets up with Crichton, that was fast, who tells her that in these clothes she kind of looks like Cher. He tells her that things are getting worse, and now his dad is leaving tomorrow. They walk past his family's garden, and John spots his mother. He tells Erin that she died 4 years before he left, and now he's got to talk to her. He calls her, and she asks if she knows him. He says no and mentions her reading the cards. She says everyone thinks it's Philly, especially her son. "He's wrong. It's not," John replies. "He's just young." He says that he did a reading in Gainesville and that she has to make Jack stay until Monday. She says she did a reading, but he says he doesn't know what will happen. She just can't let him go. He tells her not to back down like she always does. "How do you know that? I can see it in your face. You're a peacemaker, not a fighter." As he gets more emotional, he tells her just to make sure he doesn't go and apologizes for bothering her. Back at the house, Rigel tells John to just tell his dad not to get on the shuttle, but John says he wouldn't believe him. When he was 17, John was trapped in a fire and was in a coma for 2 days, and his dad saved him. After, when NASA called, he refused to leave, and the plan is to recreate that. He'll get Kim, his old girlfriend, to bring his old self here, and they'll simulate it all. He notices Chiana is missing. Meanwhile, Chiana is with John in his car at the canal, as John tells her about the troubles he has with his father. He says the truth is one day he wants to go up there too, and she says he will. He's unsure, but says one day maybe he will. The policeman returns to the house, snooping around, and Naranti catches him and blows more herbs in his face. In the garden, she makes him drink some concoction, and when Dargo asks what she's doing, she replies that she's running tests to make sure she won't hurt John when she puts him in a coma. They take him and stuff him in the police car. Dargo attempts to drive. "Machine go," he commands in an attempt to start it. So Naranti points out that he has to turn the key. Unsteadily, he drives away, giving the nosy lady the finger from earlier.
See, it's just a universal greeting. See, everybody knows it.
Kind of like Bobby. Anyway, the universal greeting from Transformers.
Yeah.
The Marauder arrives on Moya, and in his chamber, Pilot pleads to Braca to not have the control collar put back on. He says they didn't starburst, and he has no idea where John is. Graza tells Braca to find Crichton if he's on board, prompting Braca to commence a full-tier search. Back in the house, John sits next to Rigel, who's cutting a pumpkin. "Make him scary, you said. Scary." Rigel seems to be on a sugar high and asks John how illegal the candy is because he needs more. John tells him to just breathe. On Moya, Sikozu wants to hide in the fans where they can't be detected, but Scorpius tells her to go and that he'll be fine. She leaves as Braca climbs down to their level. Scorpius growls and points his gun. You're dead," Braca exclaims. Scorpius asks how many are on board the Leviathan, 30 peacekeepers and Graza. He asks if they'll follow him down here, and when Braca says no, Scorpius calls him captain, grabs his head, and kisses him. "Well done," he says. Braca says, "It's good to see you, sir." In the house, the preparations are made, and John leaves to go get himself. He and Chiana spot John's parents in the garden, happy, as Mom has convinced Dad not to go. John says he wished they stayed like that, but they think they've got all the time in the world. At the canal, John gets in his car as young John is throwing stones into the water. Kim tells John that she did what he asks, but he thinks she's going to break up with him. As they continue to talk, Chiana comes around and knocks Kim out. She asks if this is what he's into. She's a nice girl, John says. Meanwhile, at the house, Rigel scares some trick-or-treaters off and takes their candy, but John walks in and takes it off of him. Rigel, hands shaking and an obvious sugar rush, begs for it back. I love this and you won't buy me any more. I want Kit Kats and M&Ms and Pez and Reese's Pieces. Already addicted to the sugar, he asks John if this stuff is legal. They're all set, and Chiana asks Narenti for how long it'll be until the syrup's ready. She says it'll be in half an hour, and asks Chiana if she can find a way to keep young John occupied. In the back of his car, Chiana asks young John if it's his first time, and if it's how he imagined it. He says yeah, but not in Betty, in the back of his dad's four-wheel drive. They kiss, and we cut away. Scorpius asks Braca if Grayson knows that Braca is his spy. He says no, and Scorpius says she must never find out. We have to stop her, Braca says. She's organizing a peace initiative with the Scarans. Scorpius says they're using her, and they'll agree to everything and then betray the peacekeepers when their forces are battle-ready. Braca asks what he should do, and Scorpius tells him to stall her and that he's not one for exaggeration, but the future of the peacekeeper survival depends on him. The police have a warrant and go to search the house. As John watches TV in a chair, Narenti brings Chiana the serum and she makes him drink it. As the police arrive, young John gasps and falls to the floor in convulsions. He has no pulse as the officers knock on the door. In the chaos, Chiana notes that John's arm is turning invisible. He's fast becoming incorporeal. Dargo runs in and asks where Crichton is, and he says he's there, he just disappeared. Narenti says the sheriff's body weight is greater, so she probably gave young John too much, and his body is ceasing to function, so John is ceasing to exist.
Oops.
Yeah.
Slight problem with the plan.
Aaron and Dargo let the police in and summarily knock them out. Narenti chews something and passes it from her mouth to young John, and he revives. She couldn't bring him back too quickly, so John is still semi-corporeal. He urges Granny to do something, but she tells him to use his condition to their advantage. So John leaves to go see what he can do. I think he says something about Casper the Friendly Joke at this point. Meanwhile, the sheriff asks who they are, and Narenti says they're aliens, before Dargo tongues him out cold. Again. John visits his mother, who recognizes his voice. He tells her that he loves her and has wanted her to tell her that for a long time. He tells her to get Dad because he's in trouble, so she runs to call for Jack. Back on Moya, Braca tells Grazer that the scans were correct. Crichton isn't on board. She says she thought as much since she checked the memory banks, and Pilot has no idea where Crichton's gone. She tells Braca to prepare the Marauders and set course for their meeting with the Scarans. When he leaves, Grazer stands at the door and speaks to a creature in the darkness. She asks for reassurance that there's no way it will be detected once it's gone, but the DNA from John she provided will be sufficient to detect his presence, so once he returns, as she's certain he will, he can be captured alive. Narenti whispers in John's ear to remember nothing, but Chiana tells him except for Karen Shaw in the four-wheel drive. Narenti gets to one policeman, but they have to go before she can make the other sheriff forget. They drag the unconscious policeman to the car and pile them in and then leave as Jack arrives to get young John. As Dargo and Aaron watch, but then Jack hits his head on the light as he rushes in and falls to the floor unconscious. Dargo realizes he's been in too long, and asks John, why do our plans never work? Murphy's Law, John replies, and he runs in the house. He calls them Dargo, and they both drag Jack and young John out of the house and lay them on the ground. John kisses himself goodbye and wishes him good luck. Dargo leaves as John's mother is pulling up in the car. Aaron tells John they have to go, and they run and hide behind some bushes, looking on. Jack wakes up puzzled and then notices John, who's okay. As older John is about to jump the wall, Jack spots him, and John lingers. They hold each other's gaze for a frozen moment, Jack with an intent look of almost recognition, and then John jumps off the wall and out of sight. Cut to the sheriff is in an interrogation room explaining everything. He swears that there was an invisible guy and one with a really long tongue. He has no idea why no one else remembers, but he has Rigel's pumpkin, which has a face rather like Scorpius, and says it has to be a message because no human could have made it, and is utterly bewildered. Aboard Lola, Dargo asks if there's any way they can save the other people who were supposed to be killed in the Challenger explosion. Crichton says there isn't. In their case, history must be allowed to proceed normally. The crew then pick up a message from Pilot. John gets him to check the year, and it's from 2003. Follow my signal, Commander. Come home. The wormhole opens and they return through. Another Earth, Rigel says as they spot Moya, but in orbit of Earth it's 2003. Nope, same Earth, different time, John corrects. They dock, and when John steps around a corner, he's met by 4 humans. 3 of the officials from the interrogation room and his father. Welcome home, son, Jack says. We've been waiting for you a long time. As Jack approaches, John pulls out his pulse pistol and takes a good long look at them. What's wrong, John? His dad asks. And John replies, was it a bass or a trout? To be concluded in the next episode. Little trivia from this episode to wrap up. The exterior sequences were filmed in Sylvania Waters, a suburb of Sydney. There was a lot of debate about whether or not to use the footage of the Challenger explosion, but in the end it was decided to show what Crichton was thinking about. Jamie Croft, who played teenage Crichton, asked Ben Browder's advice on how to speak his lines. Crichton had earlier recalled that he'd lost his virginity to Karen Shaw. This episode reveals that Karen was in fact Chiana. And despite his numerous guest appearances, this is the first time since premiere that Kent McCord actually plays the real version of Jack Crichton. Okay, so we're back into the swing of Farscape after a bit of time away, as we said. So, what'd you think about this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked, before we started here, but yeah, I liked it. There's, some little nits that we can pick, which I'm sure we're going to do here in a minute. Like, how does everybody suddenly speak English? But anyway, but overall, I like a good time travel, quantum leap style episode. They had to, put things right that once went wrong. To paraphrase the quantum leap opening, right? Or did they, given the ending? But we'll find out next time, right? Yeah, it was nice to see John interact with his family and his younger self. It's kind of always fun to kind of see how you play off against yourself, literally. Although I do have some comments later about the whole Karen Shaw thing, which we'll talk about. But yeah, overall, it had a nice Back to the Future vibe, especially with him fading out of existence at one point. Very Marty McFly there at the end, right?
Despite the lack of guitar playing,
Well, yeah,
yes.
can't be a total ripoff. You have to, or homage. Yeah. And hey, our new crew member in Laurenti was actually useful for a change. Yeah, so which we'll get into probably. And yeah, the crew dealing with the police and trick or treaters was hilarious. The nosy lady kept flipping her off. It was just funny. And yeah, Rigel on the perpetual sugar high was again hilarious. So yeah, welcome to Halloween, Rigel. That's what happens all that happened to all of us, right? But yeah, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I also enjoyed it. We seem to have a pretty good track record of these return to Earth or imagining returning to Earth, I think has been the majority of them. But, episodes that, we referenced the Gary Regal earlier. We usually get some good bits out of the Earth scenes, and I think this was no different. I will agree on the speaking English part, but what I think's weird about that one is that they actually called it out right at the beginning because they commented about Aaron knowing enough English to get by, and then they just kind of blew right past it. And all of a sudden, everybody can speak English. Like they just forgot about it. So would they probably would have been better off to just not mention it, right, and just kind of let you forget that everybody doesn't speak English and roll with it instead of pointing it out, hanging a lantern on it, and then forgetting it. It probably would have played better.
Yeah, because I mean, even though you're enjoying the show and you're in with it, it's like that they have translator microbes because they've done that kind of episode a lot. And Tiana, I guess, learned some of it apparently because she's just told Dargo some words, so she's been learning. So yeah, but they could have maybe done it a little differently, but yeah, kind of you just have to go with it, like most sci-fi shows.
Yeah, like I said, if they'd have just did it though, it probably would have been less jarring. The oh, we can't speak English, we only know 3 words, and then everybody else is like, yeah, if we're fluent.
Yeah, right. And we can read, but anyway, we'll get maybe Sesame Street works out really great I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So let's go through some stuff here. Yeah, so 3 months ago we were speculating how Crichton would get down to Earth and not die up in space, and the answer,
Or burn up on
yeah,
reentry.
right, or huh, look at that shooting star. No way. And yeah, the answer, his friends come and save him, and they all go down to Earth. Well, most of them go down to Earth, except for Scorpio and Sikozu, which I mean, yeah, I guess they aren't exactly humanish looking, although neither was Dargo. But I guess no one else really trusts. Well, no one trusts Scorpy for sure. I guess they don't trust Kozu either. Maybe with her getting all chummy with Scorpy over the last couple episodes. And yeah, apparently you can follow a communication signal through a wormhole and arrive at the source of it, which also involves time travel because they went back 17 years in the past and halfway across the galaxy, at least, right? So I guess we'll see that becomes a thing later with wormhole travel.
Yeah, it seems to me that you would want to split Scorpion and Sikozu up, right? I mean, if your concern is that they're getting chummy and you don't trust them, why leave them together? Take one and leave the other. But I don't know. I guess you know. I think they're still struggling to figure out where to go with her character. I think there's an actual plan, um, but it's like when they have these episodes that focus on the core crew, they don't know what to do with her. So we'll just conveniently leave her and Scorpius behind, and we get to have this, you know, episode focused strictly on the original crew. And I think that's what we ended up with here.
Yeah, because they could have left like the obvious like Rigel behind. Dargo you can maybe just keep on the ship because he has to fly. He's the only one who can fly Lola, so he has to fly the ship. Maybe leave Rigel on board to supervise Scorpion Sikozu because he's not going to fit in at all on Earth. So, but hey, bring the whole crew down, have some fun with it.
Yeah, well, you couldn't miss the opportunity to sugar him up. So
Yeah, which we'll talk about here in a second, probably. And yeah, it was cool that John got to see his family again, especially his mom, who later died, and which really affected him. So kind of get some closure or whatever. And but then they see that his dad's celebrating going up in the Challenger, which yeah, I like with the trivia said I didn't think they would actually show stuff, but they did. And that's kind of like one of those tragedies that happens, and you remember where you were when it happened, right? I remember I was like in high school French class, and it wasn't even like the typical announcer people, like whoever did the announcements. It was just, I guess, a random student or something came on the intercom and said that the space shuttle exploded, and that was it. And we were all like, "Huh? Nah." Someone jumped on the microphone and had some fun or something, right? But by the time I got to the next class, they had a TV brought in, and we were watching the news the whole rest of the whole rest of the class day.
I was in. I'm pretty sure I was in primary school, and I think we may have been watching the launch live. I don't know why we didn't watch all of them, but I think for whatever reason, in that day we were. I don't know if it's a science class or what, but I can very vividly remember the TV in the classroom as we were watching it live. So
Probably because it was the first teacher in space, right? So probably
yeah,
all the schools were watching it live. Yeah.
right, yeah, that probably would have been it.
And hey, we have some more plot exposition from last time. Our wormhole alien friend told John last time how to fix these little time travel issues. Just fix the first thing you see is wrong. And in which case, apparently, stop your dad from going up on the Challenger, or else everything changes. And Moya goes back to being held captive, and all the rest of the crew are captives, or in Aaron's case, a happy little peacekeeper. So yeah, no problem. Just fix the first thing that's wrong. No problem. Easy peasy.
Maybe or not as we move towards the cliffhanger ending of this episode, right? Hmm.
Yeah. Or maybe it was supposed to happen. We don't know. Timey wimey, right?
Oh no, it's Jack's dad's been in on it this whole time.
That's right.
Anyway,
Um,
or an ancient.
yeah, right. Maybe he really is. Yeah, we'll find out. Wait, let's get the little B plot out of the way, which is okay. We it does progress along the overall narrative of what's going on this season, and so we learn that Braca is still a spy for Scorpius, even though I thought Scorpius was dead. Greta, for some reason, doesn't seem to care that Pilot or Moya are wanted and don't bother taking them in. But I guess that's probably because she's playing the long game, and at the end, she leaves the creature behind to capture Crichton. So that's still her main focus. And I don't know. I thought this thing the creature looked familiar. Like I don't know if we saw that either last season or the second season. Like wasn't it like stalking air? It was on the planet where it was like oh, I can't remember. There was like it killed like the ruling family or something slowly. There was like a sword or something at the end. It looked really familiar though.
Oh, the 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 one where Crichton gets married, right? And you've got the water creature thing. Am I thinking of the wrong? I may have just mixed three episodes
Yeah,
together. I don't know.
no, it was somewhere they go where yeah, there's like a ruling family, not the one he got married to, but like a different ruling family, and then it was like killing them. I don't know, but it seemed really familiar.
Yeah, but I will agree. The Graza leaving Moya idea. without messing with Pilot and Moya just walking out. Uh, that one's sitting well with me until we got to the very end where they brought in that creature, right? Because otherwise you're like, that makes no sense. She would not just leave Pilot. If nothing else, they'd wait for Crichton to come back. But it also shows that she doesn't truly trust Braca, right? She left. He didn't even know. She just sends him off, and then she references or talks to that creature. So maybe she does know that he's a double agent.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, or it's just one of those you trust him to a point, but since he was Scorpio's right-hand man before, it's like, yeah, how far can I really, and yeah, I keep you here, like, that keep your enemies closer, that kind of thing, so she can maybe catch all the birds with one stone, so to speak.
If he's going to portray her, she'll be close enough to see it, right?
Yeah. And yeah, then we got our little fun stuff here. We got I love the scenes with the crew watching TV, and it just kind of sucks you in. Doesn't matter if you're aliens or not. The marketing department would love to know that even aliens from other worlds can get hooked on your TV shows. And it's kind of funny that they showed clips from Sesame Street, which is also owned by the Jim Henson Company that makes Farscape. So I guess hey, free rights there. You don't have to pay for that.
Yeah. Two thoughts here. One, you're right about the commercials because yeah, I was thinking about the fact this was more TV shows they were watching, but you know, uh, even on YouTube with the free ability to watch anything, right? Sometimes I'll catch myself watching like old commercials. Like they'll have the clips of people just splicing together a bunch of like 80s commercials or whatever. And it's like, I'll go down a rabbit hole of doing that. So yeah, those marketing things are funny, even if it's just going back and revisiting. But the second was on the Sesame Street thing, right? Because I mean, how else do you learn our culture? That's how we teach our own kids, right? Here, children's programming. Learn your ABCs. You learn to count with, Cookie Monster and all that. So I did kind of get a probably less PC laugh, but the comment about how slow the girl was as Aaron's trying to work through the alphabet was pretty comical.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually remember that scene from Sesame Street. So, so, yeah, some things stick with you, 40, 50 years later, right? So it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let me tell you about Schoolhouse Rock and how a bill's made.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
right. Yeah, I think it's the only reason I know like the preamble to the Constitution is because of Schoolhouse Rock and Star Trek, which you haven't watched, but there's a Star Trek episode where Kirk reads the first part of the Declaration of Independence. So it's funny.
Oh, so educational.
Yeah,
There you go. He should have applied for yeah.
yeah, they could have got educational funding for the show.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then we have I guess the nitpicky bits here, like why everybody but Dargo speaks and reads English suddenly. Apparently Rigel can read candy wrappers and say their names, so somehow he's figured out, what Kit Kat and Reese's Pieces are. China's apparently having whole conversations with young Crichton. Even Laurenti is speaking to people. Aaron, and I guess China at some point, because we saw China kind of through Aaron like learning English, right? But Aaron for sure was trying desperately to learn English, as we saw her do that in prior episodes. But yeah, like, we kind of talked about this before, but it's kind of like I guess you just have to go with it. But it's just kind of like it's in your face. It's like they made a whole point of it, and then it's like, yeah, never mind.
Which as I said earlier, that's actually why I have a problem with it. It's not the fact that they can speak English because we see people speak all kinds of languages all the time, and we don't hang up about the fact that they do. But the fact that they literally specified, oh, I know 3 words because that's what Chiana taught me, and then like you say, everybody else but Dargo seems to be fluent, and it makes no sense. But whatever.
Yeah,
Or you just have to kind of move on.
yeah, and just for watching sci-fi shows forever, that you just assume everyone's speaking English, or they're speaking something that we know is English because that's what we know. So we're watching shows, so we have to understand the show, right? But then when you go back to Earth in a time where okay, this is breaking their own laws of the show, it's like, come on, guys. But again, did it ruin my enjoyment of the show? No. So,
Yeah, if they'd have just done it, it would have been fine. It's the calling out of it that seems odd, but I think that's the only problem with it.
hmm And I guess the only other nitpicky thing would be the whole Karen Shaw thing. So,
Your favorite
yeah,
part.
right. So, it's Halloween, so okay, fine. She's just a human in the costume. But wouldn't Creighton wonder why her entire body, as I'm sure he saw a good chunk of it there at one point, why her whole body was gray? It's like that's taking the body painting to a whole new level. I think for the Halloween costume back in the 2003 or whatever, 2000, oh no, 1986, right? Which I don't know, there's much body painting going on back then. Maybe just thought she really was committed to that costume. Why doesn't old Crichton remember that she looked a whole lot like Gianna, since it was Gianna, right? I mean, I'm guessing Naranti's final suggestion really worked, and he forgot everything about the whole thing and just the memory when she told him, "Hey, just remember the Karen bit and the car." So maybe he just remembered the general concept of what happened and not like detailed memories. I don't know.
So my head canon with this is that because of the Naranti memory dust and the Karen Shaw remember comment, that he kind of idealized it, and so it's maybe what his ideal of Karen Shaw would have been, and you know that kind of overwrote the Chiana part, which is why he didn't recognize her. But that's just my head canon to make it make sense.
Yeah, I guess the human mind can fill in memories, right? Like you don't remember the whole thing exactly because it's been how many years later now? 20 years. So he just kind of filled in the gaps with what he just the idea of what happened.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, the first time we saw Chiana back 3 seasons ago, he'd been like, Karen?
Karen.
So, or like, you look a lot like, someone I used to know. But hey, again, it's funny and it kind of fits the Farscape vibe that, yeah, of course that would happen. So
It definitely fits the Chiana vibe.
this is true also, yes. And yeah, so we get a really cool plan, I guess, to keep Jack from leaving. We have a typical Farscape plan that's very detailed and goes off like it usually does. And this time they even comment on the fact that their plans never work, which I thought was a kind of funny meta moment there. But hey, it does actually work, and Jack saves young Crichton. Although we'll see if when Jack was, kind of woke up from the ground there and locked eyes on old Crichton there, and you're kind of wondering, they kind of made a point of that, and Jack's kind of like, that might look like my old son if he was 10 years older, or whatever, and then, so I guess we'll wonder if that gets brought up next time or not, which we'll get to in a second probably. And yeah, it was the ending was kind of funny, which the one police officer that didn't get his memory wiped trying to explain things, and they're just looking at him like you're insane, which I'm sure will come up next time, as most of those people there are Amoya in the current time.
Yeah, which you know, I'm trying to think of how to say it. Like the interesting part of this to me is, and it's the fun you can have with time travel episodes like this is, was this the way it's always been, or did something actually get changed? Right? Like we harped on the Karen Shaw thing, but John already had a memory of Karen Shaw, so this already happened in his memory. So was Jack aware of all this all the way up through the Farscape project? Did this trigger him to do some of the Farscape project stuff that we've already had happen? Did he send Crichton out there knowing that something like it's you could timey wimey it and kind of be like chicken or egg, and it's that's kind of fun. So we'll see if they circle back as they close out this trilogy and address that, or is it just kind of just a possibility? So
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like, play it the other way around. Like, did Jack know about all this? Did he finally figure out based on the cops' accounts and what he saw, and yeah, did he help do things to get John to where he was when he left, right? So it'd be an interesting take on the whole timey-wimey thing, because usually it's from the main character's perspective, which some of it is, which we'll see next time. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. Or not, if it didn't really happen at all, that there's a real Karen Shaw out there that's really mad because she didn't get to meet the real Crichton. So,
right, yeah, that memory, moment's gone now because he's already had his Karen Shaw moment.
yeah. But yeah, so it'll all be explained away in the next exciting conclusion to our three-parter here. But anything else we want to talk about this one before we jump into next time?
No,
Overall, it was
I think
pretty fun episode, which I love when they mix, the typical Farscape, mix the comedy with the action and you get all the plot lore and backstory and all that kind of stuff. So nice little fun episode.
yeah, I mean, obviously our nitpicks were there, but they were minor. Lots of fun lines and like you say, action and comedy in this episode. I always enjoy the Earth or the Earth-ish episodes, and I feel like we kind of advanced in this one, right? Because even though we're kind of in the middle of this three part trilogy of episodes, I think we're seeing pieces start lining up and the story's moving forward, right? We're seeing wormhole advancements, we're seeing Graza advancements. So, things are actually moving, which is even if it's a small B plot for this episode, still move the season forward, which I like to see. It's not just a bottle episode where it's like, yeah, we could have skipped that one. No, I think there's actually stuff going on.
And I guess I don't know if I should be concerned that they don't have sugar in that side of the galaxy, or not the refined sugars that we have here on Earth. So like, why Rigel suddenly was like a drug addict on on Reese's Pieces?
Hey, man, it worked for ET too. I mean,
Yeah, because
aliens just don't have good candy. That's what it comes down to.
yeah, they must have like bad confectionery products in outer space. Got to come to Earth where all the good stuff is. And then yeah, as we said before, this is the part two of three. So next time we'll cover the finale of this little 3 episode trilogy, which will be season 4, episode 13, Terra Firma. And now going back to what we do here, the guessing game of what do we think that title means. And like the last couple episodes here, no idea how that fits into the episode. Maybe the timeline was altered given what we saw at the end. Maybe not. Or maybe, like you said, did Jack kind of figure things out later and suddenly had this aha moment that, oh, that was real, and here's how we got from John leaving to John showing up again. We'll find out. I mean, it kind of does seem to point that Karen Shaw really was Gianna, so I guess there's a pretty good chance that this is what was supposed to happen. So I guess we'll see what happens in the opening couple of scenes next time when Jack tries to explain to John why he and people that know apparently what's going on are on Moya and how they got to Moya, right? Because they weren't there when Moya came through the wormhole, right? So something happened. So have to say exactly what. I don't know. And yeah, I guess you have to somehow get away from Earth and get back to tormented space or uncharted territories because you have to deal with Grayza and the Scarens for the last, the next 9 episodes, right? So there's still plenty of show left to go.
Which, I'm definitely interested in seeing what convinces the crew to leave the Earth, right? Because we've been trying to get to this point, and John's been trying to find a way home, and what pushes him back out into space. Like you said, we've got our X-File people to deal with, the alien people with Jack, and how we're going to handle that. Yeah, terra firma, Earth. We'll see what that means. Is it the way it was supposed to be, or is it the way it's, like you said, has something been changed? The feeling I get now is that this happened the whole time, right? This was the original timeline. I don't think anything's out of whack, but maybe I'm wrong, and we'll find out, like you say, pretty quickly when we get to the next episode.
Yeah, because when they went through the wormhole, how did suddenly Jack and those 3 people get on to Moya? Like, was there like like a little time gap between when John was telling them to come on through when they came through? Like, we'll have to see what happens. I don't know, but that's the
Yeah, and we got a more important question that we got to get answered. Is it a bass or a trout?
that's right. Trick question. It's like to prove that he's not, another alien acting like his dad, right? So
Yeah, it was actually a red snapper the whole time.
that's right. It's a flounder. So yeah, that'll be your homework next time. Watch the exciting conclusion to this trilogy. And we're back in Farscape world for a while, unless something bright and shiny comes along, which right now looks like nothing. So we should be back on the Farscape train for a while. And with that, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.